Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast with Christine Luken, the financial dignity coach. In this podcast, we help you recover a positive and peaceful relationship with your personal finances. We do this by bringing together wise money management with emotional intelligence. Join us for this journey where we navigate our relationship with money as Christine Luken draws from years of experience and guest experts to help you get to the root of your money issues.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast. I am your host, Christine Luken. Today's episode is the Good Money Revolution. I am honored to welcome my special guest, Derrick Kinney, who sold one of the nation's top financial advisory firms to give hardworking Americans a proven path from middle class to millionaire. As America's financial educator, Derrick is known for making complex financial topics refreshingly easy to understand and maybe even fun. He's regularly seen on Fox, CNN, CNBC, bringing insights from Wall Street to Main Street. Derrick is on a mission to change people's attitudes towards money. His philosophy, money isn't bad and good people should have more of it. Can I just say a big amen to that? He's the author of the Wall Street Journal and USA Today national bestseller, Good Money Revolution, How to Make More Money to Do More Good. Welcome to the podcast, Derrick.
Thank you, Christine. What a great intro. And I have so looked forward to being on with you. So I'm excited about this conversation today.
Well, I have been looking forward to it as well. As soon as I read your book, I knew I have got to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you.
Before we get into talking about your book and generosity, tell us, why in the world would you sell an extremely successful and profitable business to essentially start over at square one in your career?
And that's exactly what happened. I was starting over. So I'll tell you a quick story. So every year I go away on a yearly sabbatical. I take about 5 days to be completely by myself. And this was July of 2019. I was in the W Hotel in Boston overlooking the harbor there. And when I go on my sabbatical, what I found is there's a certain problem that I have in my personality. And that is I tend to set pretty ambitious goals and I run really fast after them. But if I don't monitor how fast I'm running, I can run in a circle and really not make any progress at all. So
Yes.
what I realized is this sabbatical is a time for me to ask 3 questions. How do I be a better husband? How do I be a better father? And how do I be a better business owner? And I was intrigued this particular sabbatical because I was really wrestling with something. And that was, what was next for me? 2 years earlier, I'll tell you another additional story here. I was offered my own show on Fox News. And the broker-dealer I was with said no because of compliance concerns. And I got to tell you, that was like a knife through my heart, if I'm being candid, because I love live TV. I love helping people make sense for money. And when they said no, it just stung. I understood their perspective, but it stung. And so I realized that in order to do what I really wanted to do, which was impact more people with their money, I would have to sell at some point. And I realized I was getting close to that. So I'm in the hotel and I begin to write down a list of all the things I would enjoy doing. And I wrote down crazy stuff like write a best-selling book, launch a podcast, coach, speak, consult, rebuild my recurring revenue in a new business like I had before, all this crazy stuff. And in that moment, I realized what I didn't write down that I enjoyed was being a financial advisor. And that's when I knew. That's when the light bulb, Christine, went off. It wasn't that I didn't like my clients. I loved them. It wasn't that I didn't like my team. I loved my team. But I didn't want to be like that athlete where 2 years later, you're sitting there watching and you're saying, I wish they would have retired when they were at their peak and not you're watching their decline. I didn't want to be that person. And so that's when I knew. And so January of 2020 is when I decided to sell and really put all the chips on Derrick again. I call it Derrick 2.0. And my goal was I needed to burn the ships. I needed to take what I built and then put the pressure back on myself to rebuild something brand new again.
Wow. So that's interesting that your new beginning started right about the time when COVID happened.
Yes,
So
exactly.
was that a propellant for your business, or was that like a wet blanket to your business? Because I've heard from people in both camps.
It actually was an accelerant. And here's why. I didn't know what to expect, but what happened was I didn't want to just hand my clients off. I wanted to hand them up. And one of the things that I did is when I decided to sell, probably 25 years earlier, there's a dentist in my hometown who I would go to, twice a year. And it became more than just a dentist relationship. We would talk about business and money. He was like a mentor to me. And one day I remember going into his office and he said, Derrick, this is going to be the last time I see you. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm retiring. And it stung me. I wasn't expecting it. I was caught totally by surprise. And when I was about to sell my own practice, I realized I didn't want my clients to feel like my favorite dentist made me feel, with shock and awe. And so I made it a goal, as I had about 200 clients myself. I called every single one of them personally to let them know what I was doing, because I felt like I owed that to them. But as you can imagine, picking up the phone for each client, it was like pressing a video, replaying all of our life experiences together, the pain and the hardship and the struggle, and helping them achieve their success they've had financially. And the response was pretty crazy because, some people were cheering me on. Derrick, it's so nice to see you practice what you've helped us do. Some people got mad, candidly. They were like, Derrick, I can't believe you're abandoning us. We thought you'd be with us our entire lives, and here you're taking a path out. And that kind of stung me. But one lady, I think, summarized it the best. She said, Derrick, and she was very serious. She said, if you're going to have a midlife crisis, just buy a Corvette. It's a whole lot cheaper.
You're like, I don't think that's what this is.
So what happened was it took me a good month and a half to call my clients. But if I'm just being completely vulnerable here, I literally broke down in tears. The last call I made mid-February, because I was carrying this emotional weight of wanting to make sure that I took good care of my clients. I didn't want to just walk away, take the money, move on. This was my family. This was like the baby that we had birthed, and I wanted to make sure we handed this baby off to somebody who could care and nurture for it. And so, my vision, and this is where I had to put my ego aside. My vision was that a year later, my clients would say, Derrick, we liked you, but we really like who you sold the business to. And I wasn't prepared for that. And that's what happened. And I had to realize, Derrick, that's a win. That's a win. The fact that you handed them up, you took good care of them. So that gave me, I think, peace of mind. Because when I see them now here in my local area, they still thank me, Derrick, thank you for what you did for us, but also for giving us this new advisor. It was just a good progression for their financial lives.
Yeah. That sounds very familiar because I had a similar experience when I left the family business.
Yeah.
So I worked for my family's business as the vice president of HR and accounting for 13 years. And that was, I pursued financial coaching because, like you, I felt like, yes, I loved the people I worked with. A lot of them were my family. But at the same time, I had this calling for something else. And the best thing that you can do when you're making that transition is to bring somebody in who's going to do at least as good of a job as you've done with them. And someone who enjoys it. I mean, the person that replaced me in the accounting role, every time I see him, he's like, thank you so much. Like, I love working here. And to me, it's like, I love hearing that. I am so glad, because if you leave and they beg me to come back, I'm going to say no. It's going to hurt me to say no, but I'm going to say no.
Right. And you need your replacement to hate the job you handed to them, right? And it worked out really well. That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Well, Derrick, I adore your book, The Good Money Revolution, How to Make More Money to Do More Good. And I want to share my favorite quote out of it. Connect your cash to a cause, your money to a movement, your profits to a purpose. This is what changes everything.
Yeah.
What exactly is the Good Money Revolution? And Why is this so important to you?
Well, it's important to me because it helped a 26-year-old rookie financial advisor build one of the top financial planning businesses in the country because of what a woman said to me. And let me back up a second. So I went to a local college here in Arlington, Texas, and squeezed 4 years into six, working my way through. And I got into a marketing firm, but I realized I don't like this job. I've always enjoyed investing and helping people make money. And I saw my parents really struggle with money. They worked really, really hard to provide, and their friends worked hard to provide for their families, but nobody seemed to have a plan or a strategy to be able to achieve financial independence or any level of financial freedom. And I thought, that is just not right. And it really motivated me to become a financial advisor. So while I was working full time, I went back and got my licenses and began to build this business. So the time came to cut the cord of my full-time job and launch this business. Well, now I had a problem. I didn't come from the gene pool of the popular kids. I didn't have the Rolodex of all the famous people in town that had all the money, and I didn't have a whole lot of experience. But what I did have was a passion for local education. And so I went back to my local high school and I said, when I was a student here, nobody ever came back and recognized a teacher or a student and sort of gave us a picture as to what our future could look like. Everybody said, take your history class and math and science. All that stuff was great and you'll do well in life. But would we really? I wanted to meet some successful people. So I came armed with a $50 Amazon gift card for the teacher and a $25 Amazon gift card for the student, and said some words of affirmation to them and appreciated them, gave that to them. And we got a picture taken with, it was myself and the principal, the teacher, the student. And back in those days, we had these things called newspapers, really high technology back then.
I remember this.
And the pictures came out in the newspaper. So this was probably 2 months later. I got a call at the office and a woman said, Derrick, we see the work you're doing in the community and we'd like to have you be our financial advisor. And Christine, what I said next, I would tell everyone, this is the worst possible response. I said, do you realize I'm 26 and I'm brand new? Why do you want to work with me? Okay, maybe they liked me being vulnerable. I don't know. But what she said next changed everything. She said, Derrick, we know you're young, but we know you're smart, but we want to work with you because you care about what we care about. In the moment she said those words, it was like a big light bulb went off that I didn't have to be the smartest. I didn't have to be the best looking. I didn't have to be the best connected. I just needed to care about what the people who I wanted to work with also cared about. Yeah. And that's when the light bulb went off and I said, wow, so I love giving money to these students and these teachers and recognizing them. And it was motivating to think, what if I made even more money and use this as my motivation to then do this at high schools all around town and really ramp this up? And what happened was I found this secret, and that was that high net worth clients, because they're so busy and they've got so much going on, can't always be involved in causes they care about, but they like to partner with professionals who care about the same cause as they do. And what I found is my clients love the fact that, of course, we got good returns and we called them back and returned emails. All of those were the table stakes things. But they worked with us because they felt like they were part of something bigger. They were helping be part of rewarding these teachers and students, and they felt like they were part of a movement. And that's when I learned when you connect a cause to your cash and profits to your purpose and money to a movement, that's the way to not only grow a business, but also to totally avoid burnout as not only a financial advisor, but any professional, because the good money revolution is how to make more money and then do more good with it. The more money you make, the more good you feel giving it away. The more you give it away, the more money you want to make. And so that's the revolution.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I've experienced that myself because, there's only so many things that you can get for yourself. And sure, it feels good to drive a fancy car and to live in a nice house. However, when you have given something to someone and they come back to you and they tell you how that's impacted them, that feels 1,000 times better
Yeah.
than Italian leather seats or granite countertops.
Well, you're so right. It's interesting because I've been, and I still do it. I sold my business about 4 years ago, and I still go to local high schools and present these awards because I just believe in it. And what's funny now is I've done that for probably 20 years. Now, some of those recipients of a simple $25 gift card are now on the local school board, or they're on the local
Mm.
city council, or they'll say, Mr. Kinney, and they'll say, no, no, just call me Derrick now. But thank you for that. And they remember, it wasn't like life changing, but it was one part of their life where they felt like someone believed in them. But what
Mhm.
happened is, and this is so true, but it's something I don't want everybody to miss. We often think that it's the person who receives the gift card or the gift that benefits the most. I got to tell you, when I leave these high schools, I am jacked up. I am so excited. I feel like I
Mhm.
have helped make someone else's life better. And when I think about education, I mean, when you're a teacher and you're impacting the lives of these young people, it's just a passion I've got. So I would encourage people to find your passion may not be education. It may be when I pull up to the stoplight and I see somebody with a cardboard square, I think to myself, that is just not right. Or when I see
Yeah.
all the plastic in the ocean, I say that is wrong. Or I see people that
Mhm.
are hungry or impacted by the fires, whatever that is for you personally, let that be something that drives you to incorporate that cause into your business. Because again, what I don't want people to do is live their life and they look back and say, if only I had done this and had an impact. I want people's head to hit the pillow at night every day because they've lived a day of meaning and purpose. And that's the best way to do that.
Yeah. Well, what would you say to the person listening who wants to give money, but they feel like they're not prosperous enough
Mhm.
yet to be generous?
Well, and again, I get that. That's very, very real. And I see so many people that feel like they're stuck kind of in that gerbil wheel. Look, Derrick,
Mhm.
I'm barely making ends meet. I just want to make sure I can put food on the table for my family, not even worry about other people's issues. What
Mhm.
I find is that the pressure of life can be so great. And what I have found personally is the times where I give money to someone else, it gives me this sense of control that I rarely have in other parts of my life. When bills come in and I've got to pay the electric bill or I've got to pay the cable bill or the cell phone bill, those are bills I just have to pay. But when
Yeah.
I physically choose to say, I'm going to give this $50 to this cause, or I'm going to buy this book for the young man I see down the street who I see the potential in his eyes, but he doesn't have the money in the bank account to pay for his first semester of community college. I'm going to give him this
Mhm.
book with a note that says, I believe in you and I believe your best days are ahead. Sincerely, Derrick, and give that to him. I mean,
Yeah.
that's powerful because in that moment, while I didn't have a lot of money, I just made an impact in someone's life. And what happens in that moment is you interject yourself into someone's story. You see, that moment will register in their mind that whether it's a Christmas or a Thanksgiving or some moment years from now, they're going to think back, I remember this guy or this woman who gave me this
Mhm.
book and it had this message in it. And no one had ever told me that before. And it helped encourage the potential I had in me. I mean, that
Yeah.
$20 literally can change someone's entire trajectory. So that's how I think about it is I want you to be part of a lot of people's good parts of their story.
Yeah. So what you're saying is start small. It can be
Yeah.
$5. I mean, that's where I
Right.
started.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Christine, it's interesting you say that because one of the money myths that's out there is, and I hear this a lot, Derrick, I'd like to be more generous, but I need to wait until I have more money to really make an impact. And, in economics, and anybody who's really into math, they're not going to like what I'm about to say, but that is typically, the future value of money is always greater than the present value. True. Okay. But what happens is when it comes to impact and impacting the causes you care about, get this, the present value is always greater than the future value. And it's because of the impact that is missed if a contribution or a donation isn't made when you feel it in your heart to go and make it. It's interesting. One of the things I'm very passionate about is the homeless. And there is a homeless shelter that's here in town that with our Rotary Club, we've kind of partnered with. And I got to meet a man named George. And we had produced some life skills videos for the life shelter. And he said, Derrick, he said, this budgeting video that you made is really going to help me be able to get my own apartment and be independent. Well, I just thought through the Rotary Club, I was asked just to make some random videos. I didn't think about who would watch them and be impacted by them. But when George said in his gravelly voice, Derrick, this video is really going to help me, it became real to me. This is a real person. Even if he was the only one that I made that video for, it was worth it because it helped impact his life. And then to your point, Christine, it just made me feel so much good and want to be more doing things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I share that passion with you. I started giving $5 a week to the local homeless shelter.
Oh, okay.
When I hit financial rock bottom in my 20s, and my dad was trying to instill this value of being generous with money. Now, I had seen him model this, all through childhood. And, he was encouraging me to give. And I told him, well, I'm homeless. The truth of the matter was I was living in his spare bedroom because I had made some very bad financial decisions, and that led me there. And he said, well, if you really want to see what homelessness looks like, we can go have a look. And so that's when I started donating to the homeless shelter. And it started with $5 a week.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more these days.
Yes.
And it was so funny because I just got this little card in the mail from them that said, I've been their financial partner since 1998.
It's amazing.
Every month.
I love that.
And I was like,
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I think about all of the different people, that have gone through that shelter. Now, obviously, I'm not the only person that supports that, but it's, I have a piece of that, So, I mean, that's just, like you said, it's really hard to buy that feeling off of a shelf or off of a showroom floor.
Dare to enter the Wealthy Woman Book Club, where answers exist to forbidden questions, where women of all ages and income secretly gather, where knowledge is shared, where possibilities are explored, where women claim their power. Dare to stay a spell in the Wealthy Woman Book Club. In this place, we lift each other up. In this place, we start dreaming again. In this place, we see financial miracles. In this place, we grow through the glory and the failure. In this place, we step into a new identity. Dare to champion the Wealthy Woman Book Club. We're creating a future where women are financially empowered across the globe. We're creating a future where our daughters stand on equal financial footing with our sons. We're creating a future where we purchase with our principles rather than price tags. We're creating a future where we use the power of money for the benefit of people and the planet. Welcome to the Wealthy Woman Book Club. Dare to come in, woman. Come in. Join us at wealthywomanbookclub.com.
And it's interesting, and I don't want our listeners to miss this. There's one piece of this which is just the giving piece, which is what motivated me to begin with. But then I discovered this secret, and that is that when people work with people who are givers, they like it. And it puts a moat around that relationship. In other words, all of us would be foolhardy to think that once we have a client, they're locked in for life. They'll never, ever be tempted by competitors. They'll never receive any type of
Mm-hmm.
enticing sales literature that would cause them to want to leave us. That is simply not true. Every single day, our very best clients are targeted by someone else to become their very best clients. And
Yeah.
what I find is that there's so much in our business that's commoditized. The returns, well, when people promise people, hey, what sets us apart is we return calls. Well, everybody returns calls. Everybody returns emails. All of this is just the normal stuff.
Right.
But when you can have a painful problem that you solve for people, that you specialize in, we solve this painful financial problem for people. And then here's a cause that we care deeply about. Those two things are like a magnetic attraction that keeps people attracted to working with you. Even years where the market may be down or you make a mistake with a client, the fact that they know you're helping solve their problems, which help them sleep better at night, and they're part of something bigger. They're part of a cause that they also care about. It's the way to grow. And in my own practice, we ended up having, it was like double the profitability of other advisors in our firm because our marketing expenses were so low. The messaging was so good. I mean, by talking with people about, hey, here's the painful financial problem that we know you have, and we understand that, and being able to empathize with that. And then here's the cause that we also care about. It was that 1-2 punch that just attracted referrals to us. So so it's giving, but it's also living and growing a nice business.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good point. And it's not, oh, we're using this as a marketing tactic.
Right.
This is a cause that we care deeply about, because I know that when I hear someone talk about a cause they're passionate about, I can tell. If it's not like, oh, we just give 10% of, we give 10% of our profits to the Red Cross, and it kind of falls flat and you're like, okay. But when you can tell when someone is very passionate about something. And I think we have been, at least I have grown up in an environment where they say, don't know, you shouldn't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Right. Like you shouldn't really talk about your generosity because, that's bragging. And if you're, showing off your generosity, but I think that there is a distinct difference between sharing a cause that you're passionate about and that you stand behind with your dollars versus I'm doing this for show.
You're exactly right. And what I would tell people listening is you have two choices. One is you can choose to keep your giving private, just like Christine, you just described. So much of what is in business is sort of on the do not talk, do not tell list. We don't talk about no sex, no politics, no giving, no religion, all that kind of stuff. It all gets lumped in with these forbidden fruits. So if you prefer to keep it private, still select a cause that you personally care about and let that personally motivate you to grow your business, to do more good with it. Okay. We know that money is not bad. And if you're only working just to build a bulging bank account, that will likely lead to burnout down the road. But when you can tie a cause to it, it alleviates all that. So if you want to be private, do that. What I found though was I was actually doing people a disservice because I had to get over this hump myself of, I feel kind of weird sharing the giving that we're doing. But what happened, Christine, and I didn't expect this, a lot of the other business owner clients I was working with, they also began to do it as well. They saw me have what I call a generosity purpose, that cause I cared about. And we then helped them, in addition to their investment and retirement planning, create a generosity purpose for their business, which helped all of their businesses grow, which allowed them to give more. They could then save more. It helped grow my business because I'm managing more money. They've got more money. So all of this was this revolution for everybody. So what I find is that when you use it in a way, people know that you want to make money, but when they also know that part of what you're making is going to a cause they care about. And here's how I would make that visible. We would do a Christmas party every year for all of our clients. And I would always invite the principals of the schools who we
Mm.
helped partner with to be at the Christmas party. And they would also bring occasionally some of their students. And so you'd think the Christmas party was just a, hey, hear from Derrick and the team, but to hear the principal talk about, hey, we know you like to work with Derrick and the team, but by working with them, you're helping make our school better. You're helping impact our teachers. You're impacting our students. Our clients were like, this is gold. You couldn't
Mhm.
script that kind of stuff. And it just, again, created this moat around those relationships that we rarely ever lost a client because they felt like they were part of something bigger and they didn't want to leave.
Yeah. Well, and I like that you brought up that generosity is contagious. And you might have seen that I posted on my social media where I had a giving challenge where I told
Yes.
people, I will send you $5. You have to match it with $5 and you have to give it away. And you've got to come back and tell me about it. And the stories that came back were just amazing. And most people put in more than $5 on their end. One woman bought wool socks for several homeless men that she passes by on her daily walk to the coffee shop. There's other people who gave to animal rescues and helped out neighbors. One woman said, I have this $150 gift card that's been sitting in my wallet. I gave it to my neighbor, who needs groceries because she got laid
Right,
off. So I
right.
gave her this Walmart gift card. And I was just amazed at the fact of, me taking this $100 and dividing it up into $5 increments and giving it to the first 20 people, how it exponentially blew up in a good way, just because I said, I'll give you $5, but you got to give it away and match it with your own $5.
Yes. It's powerful. It's so powerful. And, one of the things I mentioned in the book that dovetails what you just said, there was a guy named Dr. Norden, and he did an experiment basically giving people a certain amount of money. And he told some of them, go spend this on yourself. And he told some of them, go spend this on someone else. And he wanted to measure how people would feel in both camps. And so the people that spent the money on themselves, they bought some candy or they bought, a new DVD, and they basically registered no noticeable impact in terms of how good they felt. Okay. They just had something new. But
Right.
the people who spent it on someone else, they bought a snow cone for a friend, or they bought a teddy bear, bought a piece of candy, gave them a coffee gift card. Those people had an increase in happiness that lasted up to 72 hours longer.
Wow.
And this was just a very, very small purchase. And so the
Yeah.
whole point was that when you do things like this, it has the power to make you feel really, really good. And let me share one more story, Christine. This is one of my favorites. So one of the women I quoted in the book, her name is B. Bocalandro. She did some research on this, and there was a car company, and they wanted to measure how people would respond to two different ads for a car. And so the one group saw the car commercial, and the commercial talked about the new colors of the car and the engine and the features and the benefits and so forth. And then the other commercial talked about how this car company didn't talk about the car at all, but with every purchase would make a donation to help first-time U.S. Olympic athletes have the money to train to represent the USA. So they measured how people's brains responded to each one. And the people watching the first commercial talked about the paint colors and the engine and so forth, had no noticeable difference at all. Okay. But the people who watched the ad where they were making a donation to the Olympic Committee, now get this, this was the emotion that the brain registered. It was though they were looking into the eyes of someone they loved.
Wow.
I mean, how powerful is that? This was from a car commercial, for goodness sakes. But the whole point was you're watching generosity. You're seeing the story. It's becoming personal. Like every car that this company sells, a portion is going to help that person's dream become a reality. And so what we know then is this is through TV. Imagine if on your local level, all the listeners that you have, Christine, all around the country in their own businesses say, 2025, I'm going to pick a cause I care about. I'm going to talk about it with my clients. I'm going to let them know, hey, the better we grow and the more we do, the more impact we can have. So as you refer people to us, know that they're part of something bigger. All of that is a way to do more good and make more money. Because I like to make money, but it's even more fun to make more money and do more good with it.
Absolutely. Well, in the book, you say it's important to diversify your giving strategy, and you introduce the concept of the people portfolio.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I love the people portfolio. You know, it's interesting. So much of investing is all about the investing portfolio, picking out the stocks and the bonds and the mutual funds and all the different pieces of that. But ultimately, those can go up in value and go down in value. I've had many, many clients that thought they had the market cornered and they had all this money. And against my own advice, I told them, look, you ought to sell some of this and take some of the gains. And they didn't, and they regretted it. But the one investment that I've never, ever regretted investing in are people. That's why I call it the people portfolio. So think about the people in your life who they just need. It might be a word of encouragement. It might be, I mentioned this earlier, might be, hey, I'm going to pay for one semester at community college to give you a leg up to do something. Or I might buy you a YouTube course on how to learn how to get into real estate, or here's a book, whatever it may be. And you're consistently investing in those people on a regular basis. In our kids' high school, I launched what was called the business club. And every time some of the seniors would graduate, I would then text them on a regular basis. And so they went on to college. They've got families now. And I told them, you just happen to have total VIP access to me. Anything I can ever do for you because you were in high school in this moment, I am here for you. And it's so cool because one of the young people, wanted a letter to get into UT Austin Business School. And we had a business competition where much like you did the $5, I gave out $5 to about 60 different students, and we had a contest. And the contest was, in 24 hours, could you double that money or triple it? How much could you make using that money? And the whole point was that in life, sometimes there's this moment where your back is against the wall and you just have to make something happen. Well, there'd been a storm in the area, and this young man took his $5 and bought a $5 box of trash bags and went up and down his street and charged people to pick up tree limbs in the yard. And he turned the $5 into like $82. Okay.
Wow.
And so when he asked me for the college letter, I wrote about that story in the letter. And I said, just so you know, with $5, here's what this potential student did. Think about what he'll do with a degree from UT Austin. Please give him every possible scholarship. And they almost fully funded his college ride there. But the point was, that was an example of me investing back in him because he took the exercise, he took the initiative, and he said, I'm gonna believe in this. A lot of people just took the $5. He said, I'm gonna bet on myself and take the risk and face rejection. And so I think that really prepared him for life. But that's the whole point of that whole exercise.
Yeah, I love that. Well, my second favorite quote in the Good Money Revolution book is, failure is the fertilizer for the seeds of your future success. Has there been a, quote, failure in your life that fertilized a future success for you?
Yeah, Laura Casey, I believe, wrote those words, and I quoted her in that. It's interesting. The whole point of that is it's so much of our lives is colored in failure, whether it's a financial decision we've made, whether it's the best thinking we had, and it led us to a pretty bad place. And I'll share a personal story with you. The very first financial planning business that I bought, this was 2008. I didn't realize, if we could even afford it. This was going to double the size of our business. And at that time, you really couldn't get a loan to buy another financial planning business. There were no assets. Banks didn't really understand it. And so a banker that I went to said, Derrick, even if you have to liquidate your entire 401k early, do it, because as I look at the numbers, this looks like a really good opportunity. So I did it. And it seemed like the moment I bought that, all hell broke loose. Okay. I bought it from a couple other advisors, and all of them proceeded to violate their non-compete agreements. All of them.
Oh, no.
So now I'm paying legally these people, and they're stealing clients. I've got to move. We've got to sue, all these things.
Oh, man.
Well, what happened is in the background, the market, by the way, is now dropping. It's 2008, 2009.
Yes.
I keep investing, and I keep investing in a couple different stocks and just pounding money into these things as they keep dropping, believing they're going to turn around. Well, what happened was, this would have been, I think it was around March of 2009, is when the economy turned around, spring came out, the flowers began to bloom again. And all that money that I put in as I was watching it drop and drop and drop, and even questioning myself, began to turn around. And in the moment of one of the worst possible business issues I was facing, my net worth went up its highest it's ever gone. And it was because I like to call it keeping one oar in the water. I was facing a very serious crisis. I was thinking about, do I file bankruptcy? What do I do? I mean, there was a lot at stake here, but I realized, okay, I can either just completely panic, or I can try to isolate and put in a box the frustration and the anger and the emotions I'm feeling about this issue, almost like it's in a furniture piece in my house. And then I get to choose when I pull that drawer out and feel those emotions. But I can't feel those emotions about my entire life. And so it was that process, that mental sort of map, if you will, that helped me get through that. And God and my wife were right there with me. But that was so powerful, because what it taught me was I didn't die. I didn't lose a limb. We didn't file bankruptcy. And actually the business ended up thriving. But what it did is it prepared me for the next opportunity. Because if I hadn't gone through that and lived through it, I would not have been a better buyer for the next business. So what I would just tell people is, bet on yourself. You know, you think when you look at the numbers, you want to make sure it's perfect. I like to say, if it's 70%, you go. And then once you're in the deal, you make it as perfect as you can, because that then prepares you for the next deal.
Yeah. Well, Derrick, thank you so much for being here. I think you and I could probably talk for another 3 hours, but
I agree.
we don't have all that time. This is not the Joe Rogan show, but it has definitely been an honor to talk with you about harnessing the power of money to change the world for good.
Thank you, Christine. I've enjoyed this conversation, and hope your listeners have as well. Thanks for having me.
You are most welcome.
That is a great conversation. Derrick, I've heard you before, and I've heard your story, and I have to follow you on LinkedIn, as a matter of fact. And I will confess that you practice something that I was very strongly told not to do, which is talk about what you do, you know? And so it has been ingrained in me. But, you know, I'm just listening to you talk, and I remember a story I did a long time ago. There's San Francisco. There was in San Antonio, there was a burn unit that was funded. At the time it was funded in the early 2000s, it was state of the art. And I was talking with the director of the burn unit. It was a military burn unit. And I was talking about, how did you get it funded? And he said, you know, we almost didn't get it funded. And I said, well, how did it happen? And he said, well, there was a donor who stepped up and put in a massive amount of money. And I don't remember the exact amount now, but it was tens of millions of dollars. And I said, wow. He said it was an anonymous donor, and that was the condition of the gift. And I said, oh, who was it? And so we talked, and he told me who it was. And I'm not going to tell you who it was now. But what was interesting is, it changed my feeling about that guy. It was a lot of money, and he didn't want any credit for it. He didn't want anybody to know about it. And it changed my feelings about this particular individual. And it goes in line with what you're talking about. People like it that people care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People really like it that when we find out people care. And to Christine's point, by doing what you're suggesting, it gives people a chance to model something. So, all of that long-winded spiel was just to say thank you, because I think, because it's like you make eminent sense, and we just don't hear eminent sense too often. That's all I had to say.
That's funny. That's true. That's true. But thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, we do need more eminent sense.
You can start a podcast. Eminent sense.
That's right. I like that. That's funny.
Well, I do want to remind our ladies who are listening that we are reading The Good Money Revolution in the Wealthy Woman Book Club starting in March 2025. So this should be coming out in February. So see the link in show notes if you want to join us.
Yeah, and speaking of Wealthy Women Book Club, how do people join now? If there are any ladies listening who aren't members who would like to maybe get in on that?
Yeah, well, you can just hop over to my website, christineluken.com, and if you look right front and center at the top, it'll say Wealthy Woman Book Club. And here's the thing, you do not have to be wealthy yet. So we call our members Wealthy Women in the Making. These are women who want to do better with money, for themselves, for their families, and for the world. So we are very much looking forward to diving into your book, Derrick.
Thanks, Christine. If I can jump on in the future and answer any questions, let me know. I'd be honored to do that.
Oh, we might take you up on that.
Yeah.
You're going to be sorry you said that. No,
I don't think you're going to be sorry, Derrick. I don't think you're going to be sorry. I think you're going to be happy you said that, as a matter of fact. So, Christine, for people who are listening to this who are not familiar with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you if they might want to have a conversation with you about financial coaching and your insights into their particular situation?
Yeah. The best place is to hop over to my website, christineluken.com. You can schedule an appointment with me right there. And then we've also got the link in the show notes.
Excellent. Excellent. The other thing you can do if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a subscriber, it is really simple because it just takes you reaching out and hit the follow button. Become a subscriber. That way, every time Christine drops a new episode of the podcast, you're notified and you can give it a listen. And the thing I would add is that just personally, if you like the podcast, tell people about it, share it, talk about it. Word of mouth promotion is tremendous, and we would very, very much appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Bill Tucker on behalf of Christine, reminding you that you can go out today and make today a great day or not. It is your choice. Use it wisely. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Money is Emotional podcast. To get in touch, visit our website at www.christineluken.com or drop us a line at hello@christineluken.com. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Christine Luken. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your advisor, tax professional, or other qualified financial professional with any questions you may have regarding your personal finances.